Most people who are building toward a savings goal expect to feel different when they hit it. More secure, more confident, more like money is finally working with them rather than against them. And most people who hit $20,000 saved do feel those things. But what nobody warned them about is the specific way their financial life changes structurally. Not emotionally, structurally. The decisions available to them, the conversations they enter differently, the opportunities they can see that were invisible the month before. There is a line at $20,000 that most people cross without understanding why they feel so different on the other side. And this video explains the mechanism, because understanding it before you get there changes how fast you arrive.
Change 1. Decisions stop coming from the fear floor. There is a specific quality of financial decision that most people make without naming. It is the decision made from the floor. The floor is the question that runs underneath every financial choice when savings are thin. What if this goes wrong? What if the car fails? What if the job ends? What if the medical bill arrives? And decisions made from the floor of that question are systematically different from decisions made without it. At $20,000 saved, the floor question does not disappear, but its power to distort decisions reduces dramatically because the floor has a real answer. What if this goes wrong is answered by the number in the savings account. And when that question has a real answer, the brain stops treating every financial decision as a potential catastrophe and starts treating each decision as what it actually is, a choice between options. And choices between options produce better outcomes than catastrophe avoidance every single time. The quality of your financial decisions does not change when you hit $20,000. The quality of the cognitive environment in which you make them does.
Change 2. Your peripheral vision returns. Scarcity mode narrows attention. This is its biological function, and the narrowing is literal. The brain under scarcity conditions pays less attention to information outside the immediate threat, which means that opportunities sitting just outside the crisis frame are genuinely harder to perceive. Not harder to pursue, harder to see. At $20,000 saved, the scarcity frame begins to lift, and peripheral vision returns. The job posting that would have been invisible because considering it required imagining a gap between jobs becomes visible because a gap between jobs now has a cushion. The investment opportunity that would have been dismissed because it required capital you could not spare becomes available because the capital exists. The negotiation that would have failed because you needed the outcome too much succeeds because you can genuinely walk away. Peripheral vision is the right metaphor because the opportunities were always there. They were not visible from inside the scarcity frame. And the moment the frame lifts, the same landscape looks different without a single external thing having changed.
Change 3. Your relationship to risk structurally changes. Most people in the target income range understand risk as a spectrum: low risk, low reward, high risk, high reward. And they know in theory that taking appropriate risk is necessary for wealth building, but knowing this in theory and being able to act on it are different things. When every dollar you have is simultaneously your safety net and your spending money. At $20,000 saved, the emergency fund function separates from the opportunity function for the first time. The emergency fund holds 3 to 5 months of expenses, and the surplus above that becomes capital. Not backup capital, actual deployable capital. And deployable capital changes the relationship to risk because the risk calculation changes. A $1,000 investment below $20K total savings is a significant percentage of everything you have. The same $1,000 investment at $22K savings is capital doing its job, not savings being risked. Same amount, different function. And different function changes what is emotionally possible to do with it. And if the scarcity mode mechanism and the peripheral vision reframe are already changing how you think about the urgency of reaching the threshold, the like button is right there. It means this video keeps reaching the people it was made for, and I get to keep making the argument this precisely. Change 4. Compound interest becomes visible for the first time. Most people understand compound interest intellectually before they have ever felt it, and the intellectual understanding does not produce the same behavioral response that actually watching the number grow produces. Because the behavioral response to visible compounding is one of the most powerful forces in personal finance, and it does not become visible until the base is large enough to produce a return that is perceptible in a normal month that is perceptible in a normal month. At $20,000 in a high-yield savings account currently paying between 4.3 and 4.8%, the monthly interest is approximately $72 to $80 in a single month, without working, without selling anything, without deciding anything. $72 to $80 appearing in the account from no action taken in that month. Below $10,000, that monthly interest is $35 to $40. Still real money, but psychologically, the amount that changes behavior is the amount that feels like something, that feels like the system working. And $72 to $80 per month is the threshold where most people feel it for the first time, and the feeling changes the relationship to saving permanently, because the question shifts from when does this get easier to this is already getting easier.
Change 5, the identity shift that the number produces. This is the change nobody names in the expected order because it sounds like a consequence of the financial changes rather than a cause of future ones. But it is both. And understanding it as both is what makes the $20,000 threshold more important than any other savings milestone for most people in this income range, Below the threshold, most people identify internally as someone who is working toward financial stability. Above the threshold, they identify as someone who has it. And this is not a semantic distinction. It is the behavioral and perceptual distinction. The person who identifies as working toward stability makes decisions shaped by the aspiration. The person who identifies as already stable makes decisions shaped by the position. Same income, different decisions. Not because their values changed, but because the identity changed. And identity changes are more durable than behavioral changes because they do not require continuous effort to maintain. The person who identifies as financially stable does not have to decide to act financially stable every morning. They already are financially stable, and the decisions follow automatically.
This is what crosses at $20,000, not just the number, the identity. And the identity then shapes every subsequent decision in a direction that compounds forward. The scarcity mindset that was closing down options is replaced by the stability mindset that opens them. And the opening cannot happen at $15,000 for most people in this income range, because $15,000 is not enough to create the real floor that shifts the identity from aspiring to arrived. And this brings us back to where we started. The line that most people cross at $20,000 without understanding why they feel different on the other side. The answer is not the amount. The answer is the mode. Scarcity thinking closes peripheral vision, narrows decision quality, distorts risk calculation, undercuts negotiation position, and prevents the identity shift that makes the next 5 years of financial decisions systemically better than the previous 5. And $20,000 in liquid savings is approximately where most people earning a decent income cross from the mode that makes all those things worse to the mode that makes all of them better. Which is why understanding this before you get there changes how fast you arrive. Not because the information is motivating, because it reframes every dollar saved between now and the threshold as a step toward a different mode of operating, rather than a step toward a bigger number in an account. And different mode versus bigger number are not the same destination. The line exists. It is real. It is structural. And most people cross it without anyone having explained what they just crossed. I make these videos because I find it genuinely unreasonable that the most important threshold in personal savings for most working Americans is treated as a nice milestone rather than a genuine cognitive and structural inflection point. Subscribe so I can keep being unreasonable about that on your behalf.
The video on your screen right now might be more helpful for you, so click and watch.